Alright guys, today I'm actually recording a video instead of doing it live, which makes it a little easier for me to post tomorrow because I feel my voice losing it a little bit, so hopefully I'll be okay tomorrow, but just in case so I can post something. Today I want to talk with you about how your birth story actually has an impact on your success in life today. I did a lot of research over the last couple days, yeah, that would be nice, over the last couple months and actually years, and I've seen so much relation to our emotions, and that's why it has become such a big topic in my business about emotions and teaching about emotions, how to use them and how to recreate our relationship to what we feel, because our emotions really are our native language. That is the first language that we communicate with coming out of the womb, or even in the womb still. And often we're not really aware of what our emotions really can do for our life and living our calling and our purpose. And so today I want to talk with you a little bit about how your birth story, or the way the pregnancy went with your mother, impacts your success today. This is especially great for every entrepreneur, but really anyone, because at some point we all get stuck for whatever reason and we wonder why. And so this might really be a good reflection for you. So again, today we want to talk about what your birth story, what an effect your birth story has on your success. Actually, a very high percentage of feelings and emotions are established before we were even born. So it is becoming clearer that infants, for example, develop skills around emotions in the prenatal state or in the prenatal period already. There is a woman called Sarah Bell Doherty. She wrote a book. It's called Mysteries of Prenatal Consciousness, which is really interesting. And she said, "We know that the unborn child is an aware, reacting human being who from the 6th month on, and perhaps even earlier, leads an active emotional life." Now get that 6 months in the womb, you already have an active emotional life. And that again determines your DNA, which is also quite interesting. I'll get to it in a little bit. It is really intriguing to see that there's more and more evidence around how our emotions are our first language and how it determines our success. And especially the evidence on how the mother's and the father's attitude and the feelings toward the child and the pregnancy impact the emotional world of the child, leading all the way to adulthood. Psychoanalyst Dr. Verney, he is one of the researchers that I am getting a lot of my information from, and he found the evidence towards what I just mentioned, that the mother and the dad's attitude and the feelings toward this pregnancy and this child have a huge emotional impact on the child from birth on to adulthood, and that's something I think we all need to be aware of. The feelings and the behaviors of the mother is the main source in how the fetus will develop. And that is to all you moms, not to make you feel bad. Like, it doesn't mean that if you have a bad day that's going to influence badly your child. That's not the case. But really, your emotional state of being influences already in the womb the emotional world of the unborn child. That is one of the main sources that professionals talk about in most cases, and researchers as well. So what the child experienced in the womb already creates a predisposition, expectations, and vulnerabilities. Now get that. Already in the womb, what it experiences emotionally from the mother and from the father creates an experience. It creates already a predisposition, an expectation, a vulnerability that we have to deal with throughout our whole adult life. And I think that's something that's really important to understand, that often what we experience is being traced back to the pregnancy, to the birth experience, to the pregnancy as a whole, and then the birth experience. And most of us are not even aware. We try to figure out how we feel right now, what the problem is. Maybe we can think back a few months, maybe even a few years, but none of us really thinks that there could be something emotionally going on that leads all the way back to birth and to pregnancy, and may not actually be yours, but coming from your mother and your father, and whatever they experience it. Now, I'm giving you a good excuse if you feel somewhat emotionally unstable and challenged. You might be able to blame your mom and your dad. Don't do it. Take responsibility. We're not the victim of our emotions, because again, there are ways to release all that, and I will talk about that in a little bit. So the most traumatic, as Dr. Verney states, is when the mother withdraws her love and support from her unborn child due to whatever it is, illness, experience of loss, or hostility to the pregnancy, for example, through tragic experiences like rape, or the insecurity or the uncertainty, the financial stability is not present, like anything that can be determined as hostility to the pregnancy. Okay. So in many cases, those children that grow within the womb of a mother who has a lot of anxiety and experiences that withdrawal throughout pregnancy, those children may be prone, we don't have exact statistics to it, but research is getting there to really be able to prove that those children really may be prone to be more depressed and experience more anxiety, even bipolar disorder was the word I was missing, throughout their adult life. Like any kind of mental challenges can be traced back to the pregnancy. So it appears that the unborn child is capable of distinguishing between the different types of maternal stress, which is really interesting to me. Like, as a child that is not fully developed in the womb, you can already distinguish between the different kind of stresses your mother experiences. Just sit with that for a while. You haven't even fully developed yet you are quite aware of the emotional state. Like, you feel the emotion. You almost, like, I don't know if you really understand, but you just feel the emotion. It doesn't matter if you understand it or not. Obviously, you're not rational in the womb at that stage, not even as a newborn, but it's just your system is picking up on it, understanding it. So here's why. Every thought and every feeling, every emotion we experience, including those that we take on from others, including the one from your mother and your father throughout pregnancy, send a specific message to each cell within our body. Again, everything is frequency, everything has a specific vibration. You've heard me talk about that for a while now, if you've listened and followed my work. But every vibration frequency sends a specific message to every single cell in your body. And every single cell then is affected, no matter if it's a more intense emotion or not. That's why they say any kind of stress which is related to an emotional experience can influence the child's development in the womb. And let's be honest, pregnancy in itself is already stress enough. If you go through all the changes within your body, and then you may not feel well, and then maybe the fear that you may even lose it, like all those things play into it, and there's no blaming or making responsible. It's just something that we need to be responsible of and that we need to be aware of. Okay, so the message that are connected to those feelings and thoughts is then registered in our DNA. Now get that. So everything that we feel, all the information, the messages, the vibration, the frequency that has a specific meaning is being sent to every single cell in your body and being registered and then translated into a message. And that message is then being registered within your DNA. It's already in your DNA when you're born. So it creates then the identity and the energy, and that message that is in the DNA creates then a specific identity and energy of its own. I hope that makes sense. So then, excuse me, this so-called cell memory is then automatically being used when there is a need. Okay, so for example, in coaching we call it trigger. So if your mother has been depressed, like as you know, let's go back a little bit. As you know, I work with a lot of different clients. A lot of them are empath, but when I do the emotions clearing sessions, I work with whoever can identify with something that I'm saying. But so it comes that there's a lot of different stories, and a lot of those are being related back to the relationship that they had with their mother or their father. And one story in particular that is quite simple to explain is one client has been suffering from depression for a very, very long time. And she doesn't quite know where it's coming from, but she does remember that her mother felt often very depressed, or that she is depressed as well. So it kind of is in the family. And so what can happen is that even during the pregnancy, that the mother didn't feel necessarily great. Maybe there was some rejection towards the pregnancy, who knows? We can't really determine what the mother actually went through. But somehow the child in the womb took on the message that feeling depressed is a reaction to being unloved and not valued and acknowledged. So for most of her life, she was fighting for that acknowledgement. Hey, see me. I want to be valued. I want your love. And so to relate closer to her mother, she started to become depressed as well. So they had something in common, something that combined them. And now, obviously, in adulthood, that is not something that you want to live with, because it really stands in the way for you for success. She has an amazing future ahead of her, and she has an amazing calling and purpose. And we know that. We worked on that, and she knows it. But something just, what happened there in the womb has really created already the cell memory in her DNA that whenever I feel unloved or not valued, not acknowledged, I withdraw. And withdrawing often ends in depression, because it's not a natural state of being for us withdrawing. We're wolf packs. We cannot really survive without each other. And so we're not natural. It's not a natural way of being for us, being withdrawing from people. So that usually ends up in anxiety and or more depression. So that always comes back. So every time she has experienced some kind of rejection, or where she feels unloved or not acknowledged for the effort that she put into, that is a trigger for her depression to come through. So again, that cell memory created a trigger that even now, over 30 years later, it still has a huge impact in her life without her being aware of it. Just always trying to treat it and making it through the next episode, but not knowing where it actually established and where it's coming from. But once we were able to acknowledge where it was coming from and choose to really dig a little deeper and work with her subconscious mind, it was much easier for her to work through this now and to release some of those emotions. Now we're seeing that the little steps that she's able now to reprogram her DNA to where she wants to go. And that's just a good example of how the mother's attitude and her feelings during the pregnancy have an impact on the child's life. And that all cell memory influences our attitudes and beliefs. As I said, every cell memory that we have influences our attitude and our beliefs, which determine then our behavior throughout our whole life. A good example for me, I was 2 months early, so my birth story is fast. I wasn't really ready, and I still needed to come out. And so I see that pattern throughout my whole life. I'm impatient. I'm a very impatient person. You may not think that. No, I really am. I'm a really impatient person. As you can tell, I didn't even make it through 9 months. So I had to get out by 7. And I see it now with projects. Even if I'm not ready, I feel like I have to shoot already for the end result, even if I'm not there yet. And I'm getting impatient, and that knowing just helps me to break up that cycle. So again, whatever my mom's story was around the pregnancy, maybe there was an impatience around having me, or maybe there was something else. Who knows? I haven't asked her. Maybe I should. But it has influenced my life throughout, my attitude towards what I do, my success, and how I live life. Just an example for that. Carol Truman says, and she's one of the researchers and writers, she says, with the first breath the baby takes, the feelings, sorry, I wrote that down, that quote, with the first breath the baby takes, the feelings are sealed in the flesh, encoded in every cell of the body. So once you are out and you take the first breath, that breath seals everything within your cell memory, in your DNA. And your future is pretty much already determined at your birth. We can change that. But if we're not aware, we can't change that. And then it becomes our truth and our reality, and then we wonder why we struggle. Burying or trapping in emotions that determine our success in life. Goodness, what am I saying? You can tell, like I'm a little bit stuffy, so my brain doesn't even work too well. But trapping in emotions that determine our sex in life already start in the womb. Ta-da! Most of us don't know it. Can you imagine literally what would be possible if we could release those emotions that already were established in the womb and we're not even aware of it? We couldn't even name those emotions. What are the emotions that were trapped in the womb? What was the experience? Our subconscious mind knows. Our DNA knows. So we can work with your subconscious mind. So what would make that possible if we could release those emotions that create your cell memory, your DNA? Could you imagine like what happens in your life? For most people, it's actually okay, there's a group. For some it's exciting and like, yeah, let's do it, let's release them, let's do it, I want to move forward. And for others, like, it's the unknown. I don't think I want to release them. I'd rather live with what I have now, even if that means physical discomfort, illnesses, mental challenges, anything that comes with that programming. It's something that we know, that we're familiar with, so we stick with it. It's a good excuse too if we don't want to move forward. Well, I can't because I have this, I have that. So there are actually solutions for a lot of the things that we experience now in our adulthood or throughout adulthood, even just childhood, really. So what would that mean? What opportunities would arise for us if we can release those emotions that have been established starting with 6 months in the womb, if not earlier? Could you imagine what would be possible, the opportunities that arise? Again, feelings and thoughts have their own powerful and profound energy. It is why I'm so passionate about this topic. Emotion is our fundamental language to communicate with each other. It is our language. Like we're even born psychic. Most of us don't even know that, but we are born psychic. That's just the way we communicate, through emotions, through the vibration and frequency. We just put the words on. Once we get into society, we put the meaning and the words behind any of those frequencies, even if we could determine the meaning ourselves. So what happens is our natural and pure blueprint of our body's energy, we have a natural, perfect blueprint of our DNA, of our body, our body's energy field. Always goes back to balance and harmony. We always want to feel balance and harmony. That is what we're really looking for. It's not happiness, it's not joy. That's part that comes with balance and harmony. But what we're really looking for is balance and harmony. And in that state, our body functions as it really is supposed to. Like when there's nothing wrong with us, when we are in that perfect state, that is when our body functions as it should. And when low vibrational energies, low vibrational emotions, I don't like to use negative emotions because there are no negative and positive. They're just lower and higher vibrational. So when we have low vibrational emotions or thoughts, when they're being recognized by our body, by your bodies, then the natural function of your body's energy field is automatically compromised. And that creates a block or a malfunction of your system. And the memory of your perfect DNA is pretty much covered up. Like every time we experience something, the emotional blockage that is happening creates that block. Like if you say like, okay, this is your DNA and your DNA sends out signals. This is how your body is supposed to work. And then suddenly there comes this big rock, this block, and it's covering everything up. You're responding to the block, not to the perfect state of your DNA because you can't see it anymore. So that again influences our beliefs and our behavior and our health, right? So now every time you experience a similar emotion that is blocking that perfect DNA, every time that happens, something happens that goes back to this blocked emotion, it is being reinforced and the block expands, and it's almost like becoming, it's just like first is Jello and every time you experience something that relates back to that trapped emotion, it goes from Jello to pudding to, pudding, I guess it's a little softer, from Jello to old heart Jello to rock. And then it's harder to move through that, to break through that, okay? So the blocks become more and more powerful until we are willing to work through it and therefore change the energy flow that of the specific block. Like that block is energy. Even rocks are energy. It's just a lower vibration, a lower frequency. The lower the frequency, the more tangible it becomes, the more you can touch it, like my cup or the table, the desk. So that low energy of the rock that is covering up your DNA, oops, here we go, here's the camera, that's covering up your DNA, the energy needs to change. We need to change this energy to release it. If anyone has any questions, please send me a message because sometimes it's a little hard to explain how all this works. But those energy blocks, also called trapped emotions, you have heard me talked about that before, cause illnesses from literally physical to mental illnesses like anxiety, depression. It can often be related. Even chemical imbalances within your body is going back to the energy flow within your body, since everything is energy vibration. So they cause our problems, and we have as an individual as well as a world society. The problems that we have as an individual as well as our world society. That's what I wanted to say. So every problem we have today is going back to our emotional imprint that we have experienced through what we experienced throughout pregnancy. What's imprinted already, the predispositions, the vulnerability, it's all established already during pregnancy. And then that goes back, that influences that those unresolved blocks create not just a block in how we respond to other people, it creates a block between people. And when we have blocks between people and relationships, we have blocks within our society and world societies, and we are just separated through those emotional blocks. So we know today that over 90% of our challenges can be traced back to trapped emotions. I am not diminishing the value of medications because really they can help us in creating a different energy flow in our body, but it is not something that is permanent in most cases. In most cases, it's just covering up the symptoms. It's being temporary, and it doesn't really help us. And as I said, there have been amazing stories with releasing trapped emotions. I mean, I really have stepped into that gift of a healer just a few months ago, probably a year ago. Oh, it's actually been a year now. over a little bit over a year. Yes, we have November. We're close to. So yes, I am still astonished by the stories that I hear from people. It's not always pretty, the journey after we release trapped emotions, but the opportunities that open up from there. We have people who were able to release hip pain, was connected to worrying about the future at a very young age already, seeing what his parents went through. And once we released it, he's like, I feel more daring. I feel like I have more creativity. I'm not so worried about the future. I feel it's just like I can do and be bold. Others, she also had hip problems and back problems. They have been released for most of the time, for the most part. She's like, I haven't had that excruciating pain anymore since. It is scary too when we release trapped emotions. I'm not saying that, because when we release trapped emotions, suddenly a different world is opening up and it becomes scary. It's like, what is going to happen? What am I supposed to do? Now I understand my calling, or am I going to understand my calling, or where's all this creativity is coming from? So with the release of something and the excitement of something new, there's often the fear of the unknown involved. But if we can just be with it and embrace that and know that we're still safe on a very cellular level, like on a very spiritual soul level, we're safe, we can create and have the biggest impact. And this is why I'm so passionate about this topic. And especially with younger people that are more open to it. And we see the increase in mental illnesses within younger generations and suicidal attempts going up. And especially now with the holidays coming up, we know that December is one of the highest months for suicide. There's hope, and I encourage you, take advantage. Like, I'm not saying I'm the only one who does that. I think I'm doing it in a very special way for those who are interested. My personal gifts nobody can copy, obviously, but energy healing other people can do too. Like, my personal gift is seeing color. So when it comes to an emotions clearing session, I'm tuning in with you. For me, it's really easy to tune into your energy field. It's almost like your energy becomes my energy field, and I can work on myself that still influences you. It's really interesting and fascinating. And within that, I can see color changes. I see where blocks are for the most part. I work with you too, because not always am I right, because sometimes my own stories get in the way to see something, or I get triggered. So I work with the person, with the client, through muscle testing, and to make sure that, hey, what I see is actually really in alignment with your subconscious mind. And then I see the color, and each color has a meaning. And when I see that, I see pictures of your life in front of me. It's not always the case, but in most cases it is. I have to say, so far I haven't been totally wrong with anyone I've done this with. Everyone was like, how do you know all this? And it feels to me like your heart is sending out a specific vibration that my brain is transferring, for one into color, and then the color into words. It's so fascinating to me, and I thank God every day for this gift, because who the heck, how many people have this, right? And then I can combine that with my coaching training. I mean, there must be a reason why I went through a whole year of coaching training and spent $15,000. So I can use that. Whatever emotion shows up, I have specific tools to work through this and not to have new emotions get trapped within your body. And there's so many people now that get to this point now where it's like, I realized what I was feeling. I realized where it was located in my body. I acknowledged it, and I was able to release it without it getting attached, or without me getting attached and then trapped. This is amazing. So I want to encourage you, for the month of October, I have special packages, because sometimes one session works. It's great. Sometimes we need a few more, like 1 or 2, 3 sessions, or 4. So I have special packages for November. If you sign up in November, you can still use them for December and January or whatever, but you need to sign up in November. So one is you buy 3 sessions and get the 4th free, and the other one is you buy 6 sessions and you get 2 free. You can pay that in installment payments. It's really profound work. If you have been suffering from depression, if you have been suffering from anxiety, physical illnesses, or if you just feel like, hey, there's more for me, and I feel like I always get stuck, there's a cycle. every time I get to this point, I withdraw. Every time this happens, like I can see there's a reoccurring pattern. This could be traced back to your emotions. There's a money back guarantee. If for some reason you keep your wall up and I can't get through, for whatever reason, you get your money back. If I can't work with you, I'm not keeping you around. I was like, okay, let's try this again and again. After 20 minutes, if there's nothing working, I probably know this already way earlier. But really, if it resonates with you, try it out. You have nothing to lose. If it works, even better. If it doesn't, well, it doesn't. So you get your money back. But take advantage of it. You can find more information on isabelhunt.com. ISABLHUNDT. Don't forget the D. .com. Under services and then packages or... No, look under services and then one-on-one and then packages, I think. You will find it. There's emotions clearing packages for sure. You can find more information there about the sessions. But again, this is why your birth story influences your success in life today. So if you want to be more successful, you might want to do some internal work, because that clear DNA can't be covered up by this rock forever. Unless you feel comfortable enough and you want to have an excuse in how you live your life, and you can do that. But I don't work with the victims, so that's the problem. I only work with people who want to take responsibility for their life and for what they want to create. If you have a victim mentality, you might want to lose it if you want to work with me, or otherwise there's no help I can offer. Maybe someone else. Anyway, so that was it for today. I know it's been a bit longer, but I think it's been a really good topic, and I think more and more people need to know about it. So if you take the time to listen to it, that would be great. If you have any questions, write them below. Ask them, send me a message. If you're interested, let me know. I'm here, and this is my work, so you need to reach out if you have questions, or if you have concerns, or if you... whatever, just want to share. If you just want to share something, send me an email like, I just want to share this. You don't really need to respond to it, but I feel like I need to share it with you. Do it. Do it. But that's all I can do. Alright, I'll talk to you again next week. I hope my cold is a little bit better. I'm doing a lot of meditation and self-care, so I feel better. But otherwise, I will talk to you again next week. Not sure what I'm going to talk about, but something will come up. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye, guys.